my passion for the stories started in primary school. So, I was educated by Roman Catholic nuns. And I learned about druids when I was in primary school. I learned all those myths and legends, and they all had, a fascination and a magic for me. And storytelling started through joke telling. So someone would tell me a joke, and often you get the bare bones of a joke. So I would want, if it was one I liked, I'll retell it. But then I found myself embellishing it. And I remember being at a gathering, people said, "Oh my God, you should be on the television." I'm going, these are only jokes. They have no value. Jokes are, they're too frivolous. And I remember I had finished my Bardic review, and I'd been a long time on the Bardic grade. And I was at an international gathering of shamans, and I just spontaneously started telling stories. But while I was on my Bardic grade, I was not a bard. My husband was. He could spit out poetry to beat the band. I was not. I could sing, but that didn't really count. And I was in an art group, but I'm not an artist. So I did not have any Bardic skills. I wanted to be doing my ovate stuff, and that's what I was doing. And as soon as I handed in the review, it just started. Storytelling is organic. It's not rigid. It's not about, this is the script and I have to stick to it. Absolutely, because otherwise it becomes really stilted. That's an art. That's not a science.
Hello there, fellow traveler. This is Kevin Pennell, and welcome to episode 148 of Toward a Better Life. Thank you for tuning in to the episode. In today's world, there truly is a need to seek balance, harmony, compassion, kindness on many levels. You've heard me mention that before, but it remains so true, especially in the days in which we live now. And those many levels, well, they're like personally, culturally, spiritually, to name some, but it all begins with you and I as our individual selves. And that's what I like to share on this podcast from around the world, seeking others of the same spirit, heart, and mind. This is a platform to help you and I find our authentic self. And each time that I do some interviews, it even helps me because I learn another perspective from someone else that's on this journey. Now, this is a pathway, and it's a platform to help us find our authentic self. And we begin and continue our journey to wholeness and harmony, and yes, authenticity, not only for ourselves, but for the generations to come, who may also find their way to living genuinely better lives. Please do subscribe to the program if you haven't done so, and do so through your favorite podcast platform, and keep following for weekly magical insights into earth-based spirituality, self-development, and self-care. Also, remember to support the program by leaving a review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you might be using. It only takes a minute to leave a review. It also, well, it just helps to promote the program. And I also offer the opportunity for you to share your prose, your music, your poetry, or storytelling on the show. Now, do visit my website too, towardabetterlife.com, where you can contact me to learn more about a free discovery call to help you on your discovery to your pathway that leads toward a better life. The website also offers prior episodes, learning opportunities, and services that I offer outside the podcast, like holistic health, shamanic work, Reiki, hypnotherapy, just all kinds of really cool stuff. Just reach out. There are a few accessories there to assist you on your journey, too. Contact me through my website or send inquiries to me, kevin@towardabetterlife.com. Now, on with the focus for this week's episode. Storytelling. It's an age-old practice dating back to the earliest records of humankind and probably reaches back even further than that. Stories have enlightened, encouraged, and enriched lives for centuries from the young and the elders of any given time. They share insights into the secret of life itself. They entertain us with central profound truths woven in such a way that embraces the listener and leads them on that journey toward fruitful and purposeful lives. There are storytelling centers throughout the world, from intimate gatherings around a campfire, and that's to great halls where listeners can enjoy hours of stories that lift the listeners beyond the troubles and challenges of life to see answers, find solace, and bring joy to their lives, if just for a moment. Eimear Burke is my guest this week to share the magic and beauty found in storytelling. Eimear is the chosen chief of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids, and that's Obod, and she lives in Kilkenny, Ireland. Eimear is a retired counseling psychologist, and her interest in druidry and psychology have led her to act as a celebrant, helping people to design and enact meaningful rites of passage. She's a licensed person to perform legal weddings in the Republic of Ireland and can also offer non legal ceremonies. Eimear, well, she has a deep love of the ancient Irish tales and has a passion for storytelling. You'll be able to tell that as you listen. She brings the old tales to new audiences and, while remaining faithful to the stories, often examines them from newer perspectives so that listeners experience them as fresh and relevant for today. She particularly enjoys showing people the sacred sites of Ireland and telling the ancient tales right where they happened. Eimear is also a priestess dedicated to Danu in the Fellowship of Isis. She's an archdruidess in the Druid clan of Dana and a member of the Noble Order of Tara. Settle back and enjoy now as we talk with Eimear Burke and the ageless art of storytelling. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Eimear Burke. Good day, Eimear. Good afternoon, I should say, for your benefit. Where are you located?
Well, it is afternoon. Thank you, Kevin. Lovely to be here. So I'm at home in Kilkenny, looking out my window at the wind and the rain. The Cailleach has arrived in all her glory.
It has done that. Eimear is a retired counseling psychologist, and her interests in druidry and psychology have led her to act as a celebrant and helping people to design and enact meaningful rites of passage. And that's a mouthful. But there also are some other very interesting qualities of Eimear that I'd like to get into today. And that is, I'd really like to look at your role as Shawnee and storytelling. And it's because I feel storytelling is such a vital part of not only for our life in druidry, but even in the world today, that storytelling I think, can uplift, challenge, and really send in a sense of hope for the world around us. But before we get into storytelling, why don't you tell us a little bit about Eimear and tell us um, just what you do and what you enjoy doing and I should say that uh, she is the chosen chief of Obod, the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. So let's go from there.
Well, now that I've retired from my counseling psychology practice, I'm leaving more room for my storytelling, which I was always hungry for psychology and my work, and I never thought I'd retire from it. In the last number of years, I thought, no, I'm losing that hunger, and my storytelling began to take. I mean, I've been telling stories for a long time, but it began to take off, and I thought, no, this is where I want to focus my time and my energy, and playing the harp a little bit. I'm not a professional musician or anything, and then that links in very, very well with my role as chosen chief, and my life as a druid. It's very much part of it, so that excites me. And I was in Morocco for 2 weeks in September on a storytelling residency. I was working with a Moroccan storyteller who had come to me for 2 weeks in August because he was interested in the invisible threads between Amazigh culture and Irish culture. And his experience in Ireland blew his mind, and my experience in Morocco blew my mind, even though I'd been there before on two international storytelling festivals where, incidentally, last January, we broke the Guinness World Record for storytelling.
Cool. What was that record?
It was, we did 94 hours, but we were actually accredited with, I think it's like 82 hours, 38 minutes and 52 seconds.
Oh, wow. Of straight storytelling.
There was 103 of us.
Wow.
It went over 4 days, day and night. The only breaks that were when there was the call to prayer. So when the call to prayer happens in a public place, whatever you're doing stops.
Sure.
The only time.
When we moved to our home up here in Mars Hill, North Carolina, where I am, I did not know until I got here that we're like 35 or 40 miles from the International Storytelling place. I can't tell you the exact name,
Ah,
but it's an international thing. It's quite the place. I think it's I would say Johnsonville or Jonesville or something like that in Tennessee.
it's
And
Jonesville.
mm-hmm,
No, because I've heard storytellers, colleagues might talk about Jonesville. It's
mm-hmm,
Jonesville.
yep.
So in Marrakesh, where we had the festival, I mean, there was 103, 106 tellers, both Moroccan and international. So you had people from North America, South America, Europe, India, Australia, other African countries, Moroccan tellers, uh, and Irish, of course, and from these lands. And it was just wonderful. So we're telling, it's not just breaking the record, but we're going to schools and telling stories in schools. I think we went to over 200 schools in the week.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a whole
Yeah, we
lot.
two or three of us would go together to a school, and the kids there, just so hungry. And these are teenagers, and this is what's fascinating. I remember these big boys, like 18-year-olds, come in and say, "Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us." I'm going, "What? What teenager in Ireland?" And I'm sure it's the US goes up to you and says, "Thank you for sharing your wisdom through story with me." Brilliant audiences,
It
you
it
know.
kind of it kind of lends hope, doesn't it, to some level that people are really interested in this sort of thing.
And I suppose, one of the things, like you kind of said, like, what does storytelling do? But here we are, multinational group of storytellers, and we all have different styles, and some might tell the same story but a different version of it, or completely different. But that brings people together,
Mm.
and it's just so powerful. And it changes the atmosphere in Marrakesh when the festival is on. It just everything becomes very friendly, and it's cold. We have to wear winter coats at night, and it's kind of
Yeah.
warm during the day. But the street sellers are calling to you Hakawatia, which is the Darija for storyteller, and it's just lovely, and it's bringing people together from so many diverse backgrounds. It's like what draws us together. That common thing is story, and who doesn't like a story? And I don't know if there are any cultures where there isn't a tradition of storytelling.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's something when you and I were talking before we began to record, how you can just change the names and use stories that have been around for eons because it does really show itself, doesn't it, Emer, of history repeating itself.
Oh, I mean, I like the Irish myths, and I use them. And then I will say, and of course, you'll know a character like this who's probably ruling your country or whatever it is, or this is a theme. It's happened here many times. And it's like everybody goes, yes, I recognize the archetype in the story or the character or the theme. Um, and it's fascinating that these stories are still relevant.
They never get old.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Um, I know that you do have a deep des I'm going to say a deep passion for Irish tales and so forth. And I think what is our thing that we have on the hearth? It's a fireside chat where we have storytellers that come in and one of these days when my schedule avails itself, I'm going to get on there when it's live because as it is, I have a lot of uh, clients that I see at the time that it's on, but I can catch the
Are
recordings.
you a therapist?
Yes. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. And so it's Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays tend to be my busy days. And sometimes I can get out early enough that I might actually get in there by the skin of my teeth and say, I made it.
Well, the next one is the 13th of November, the
Uh-huh.
storyteller on the hearth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
I look out for you. No pressure though.
okay, none taken, but I'll do my best.
Mhm.
November 13th, write that down. So,
Funny
um,
words are a tiny hour.
a tiny hour. Yeah. Okay. That's a story in and of itself. It's a tongue in cheek to me. There's no such thing as a tiny hour. It just kind of
Oh, I
goes.
know that. I know that. Yeah, that's why I said,
What do you mean an hour's gone by? I didn't know that. Well, yeah, it did. And it often happens on this program, and I don't understand why, other
yeah.
than people that are passionate about what they enjoy doing, and I just try to unleash that little passionate person inside and see where we can go with it. Um, You know, when I was in my Bardic studies, I could see a lot, of course, from the creative side of what we do as bards and as druids,
Mhm.
and I do enjoy so much the concepts and what the learning opportunities are when we get into that phase of story. And a story, to me, really does share so much about the culture and it shares so much about the heart. It shares so much about the world that I live in, that we live in. Um, for when you were talking earlier that cultures around the world are I'm going to say we're enthralled with stories when they come our way. And I know that for a time period, I studied a lot of the Native American ways of indigenous people here in North America. And it's amazing the stories that are there as well. And some of them are short, some of them are longer, but they're all filling. They're all good for our spirit and they're very healing. I looked on your website, and one of the things that really stuck out to me in your section on seed thoughts, if you don't mind me sharing, it was a quote from Philip Cargam, and the background was story and mythology. And he says in quotes, the psychotherapist knows that reclaiming, redeeming stories can provide the keys to healing. The bard knows this as well, knows that stories can not only enlighten and entertain, but can also act like a healing balm. And that says so much that you can, when the time is right, I don't know if there's ever a wrong time, but when everything is really falls into place and you start telling a story, it's really amazing what can happen. And even in the work that I do, sometimes I'll go into a story, and the next thing I know, the person's in tears, and I had no intention of that happening, but it touched something very special in their psyche, in their being. Have you found that?
Oh, absolutely. And I also find it myself when I'm listening as a listener is it's like I find myself in the story, and I know people find this, and sometimes they'll say, "Oh my God, I was in that. That was about me."
Mm,
And it's that unsought resonance. Because when somebody stands up to tell a story, you have no idea what you're going to get or how you're going to receive it.
mm.
And it can be one line or it can be a theme that really, really moves you and touches you and can be transformational.
Yeah, it can
That
be.
can't be planned. That's something that unfolds, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And those are the ones that are very, very special. Just let them go, and don't try to, I'm going to use the term, massage them around, massage the words around to make them proper or make them or whatever. No, just let it go. Just let it go and see where it goes. I can remember there are times in my own life, and I need to reopen that for my own application for the ovate grade because they talked about in there, tell us some things about this. Well, it has rekindled the desire to share and to tell stories. And there have been times I just kind of let it go, and it's amazing how it can happen. Um, do you have any favorite stories that you really like?
That's a really hard question.
I know, with all the stories that you have, and I've heard some, and I think they're very, very special. And as they have the opportunity to present themselves, particularly if we have anything in this day and age that says, "Oh, wait." That really does key in stuff. That really does key in the factors that we've got around us, and it's a source of encouragement. I think that's what we need more than anything, is
Well, you
encouragement.
ask me, I don't have a favorite, but what it is, I like all the stories I tell, and I only tell the stories I like.
There you go. That's a good prescription. That's a good plan.
So it can be quite interesting because I hear stories and I thought that's an amazing story, but it'll never be mine to tell. I can't tell it. I just can't. It's like it's not mine,
Mm,
or it's not mine now to tell.
hmm
And then others, oh, I want to tell that story. Yeah, that
hmm
would be really. I mean, stories call to me that it, but there's some that I can't tell and others that I can tell.
Okay. Okay.
It's not that I don't like the stories, but they're not for me.
Okay.
So there's that sense of, yeah, I can engage with the story. It can engage with me, and we can work together. Or
Okay.
some. It's a
Okay.
bit like, then it would be intrusive to do so. So I tell the ones that like me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So, Eimear, have you got a story that you could share with us for the day?
Well, this is one, and this is my version of the classic.
Okay.
So, but I've said it in Irish, so in Ireland. So he was sa Chanamshire sa Tírseo. Long, long ago in this land, there was a man called Ucky and Tarragor, Ucky the Destroyer. And he was a very wealthy and powerful man, feared by many, loved by some. Now, he was very generous to those who did him good and ruthless to those who didn't. And he loved nothing more than to acquire things, property, land, people, slaves, you name it. If he was here today, maybe he'd have a few spaceships flying around in space. You know the kind of person I mean. Anyway, he decided to have a great feast as a reward to all the people over the years who'd helped him, along throughout his life. And he was a very vain man. He wanted the biggest, best, most expensive feast for his guests. And although he lived in a big, big castle, and it had a big banquet hall, I wrote this a while back. I'm not writing it for today, but actually I think it's quite apt. But it wasn't big enough for what he wanted. So he called his builders and his architects, and he called the Gobán Saor. Now, the Gobán Saor was the greatest, most skilled builder in Ireland. In fact, it is said he was the most skilled builder in the whole world in those times. And he was known far and wide for the amazing buildings that he created. And when they decided on the plans, and the plans were just magnificent, the problem was, where were they going to situate the banquet hall? Because it was so big, there wasn't sufficient land around the castle to build it. And Ucky said that the woods nearby could be cut down, and that would make plenty of space. Well, everybody gasped in horror. They said, you cannot cut down those trees. That is a fia neva, a sacred grove. Oh, nonsense, said Ucky. It's only a few trees. We can cut them down, and sure, I can plant some more. They said, no. That is a fia neva. You cannot cut down any tree from there. Now, this just wasn't any old grove. So fia neva means a sacred grove. Old Irish for a sacred grove. For deep within that sacred grove, under the protection of the trees, was a linn Vanaha, a sacred pool, whose waters contained a lán dríochtas neart, much magic and power. And the herbalists and the healers would come to collect the healing waters for their patients. And the bards would come and receive imas for their poetry and their songs as they sat and drank the sweet water. And the druids would come and sit there to dream and meditate in order to receive Ageless, the wisdom of the landscape around them. Now, the Gobán Saor said, well, I may be the best builder, not only in Ireland, maybe the whole world, but I will have nothing to do with the destruction of a fia neva. And I'm off. And Ucky said, stop right there. No one says no to me. I am Ucky an Tarragor. The Gobán Saor turned back to face him and said, I just have, and I'm leaving. And with that, he turned around again and marched out the door. Call the druids, he yelled. They can work their magic and talk to those trees and see about cutting them down. And the druids gathered and they said, no one destroyed Fia Neva. We will have none of this. And he said, I will destroy you. You only survive because of my patronage. And they looked him directly in the eye, saying, as we have already said, nobody cuts down a Fia Neva. And they walked out. And then he began to screech and to roar and rant and rave at his laborers. You go and get those axes and cut down those trees, or I will destroy you. I will destroy your families. I will rub you and yours into the ground. Now, although they were terrified of Ucky and Tarragor, their fear of destroying a Fia Neva was far stronger. And Ucky could hardly contain his anger. And he said, well, if no one else will do it, I better do it myself. So he picked up the sharpest axe that he could find and headed down towards the Fia Nev. And I could see him because I was there at the time, and I followed him. And at the edge of the Fia Nev were these beautiful, tall, elegant silver birch trees. Their shiny, silvery bark, their gently quivering leaves created beautiful music as they swayed this way and that in the wind. Coming up to the first tree, Ucky swung the axe. Ah! Cried the tree, and he swung it a second time. And the tree cried out again. And when he swung it a third time, I heard the most ear-piercing shriek that emanated from that tree as I saw its spirit fly up out of the tree in pain and terror and horror and devastation. And she took some shelter among the leaves in the canopy of her sister tree. And I can still hear that shriek in my mind to this very day. I don't think Ucky ever heard a sound. And sure, even if he did, he wasn't bothered. He couldn't have cared less. Business was business. Building was building. And he walked with his axe to the second tree. And just as he was about to swing it, who appeared before him? Only Donu, or Ulwar, the great mother of this land. And there she was, a woman with long, flowing white hair, like a cascade of water. And she wore an iridescent dress that looked like flowy green and blue waters that matched the colour of her deep eyes. And she said, "Stop, Ucky and Tharagor, do not touch that tree." And he leered at her. "Oh, woman." And ignoring her, he went to swing a second time. And she said, "Stop, Ucky and Tharagor, do not touch that tree." And he looked at her and said, "You, a mere woman, are you going to stop me?" And he turned his back on her again and swung for a third time. And just as he was about to hit the tree, she spoke again. "Stop. For the third time, Ucky and Tharagor, I am telling you, do not touch that tree." And he turned around in rage. "And who do you think you are to speak to me like that? I am Ucky and Tharagor." And this time he went to swing the axe at Danu. And just as he did, he realized too late who it was that stood before him. And he froze in terror. As before him, those long, flowing white tresses had become as angry water. And it was as if that iridescent dress had become a swollen waterfall. And we could hear the noise of the water. And those blue-green eyes, no longer seeing, had become caverns of molten lava. He was frozen to the spot, all bravado gone. And Donna said to him, "I have warned you 3 times, but you ignored me. Well, you will listen to me now. You have only ever known wealth. You have never known a day's hunger. You've never known what it's like to want food or water or shelter for your family. And despite all you've had, it's never been enough for you. Well, I curse you, Ucky and Tharagor. From now on, you will know real hunger. And know this, no matter how much you eat and how much you drink, you will never be satisfied." And with that, she was gone. And suddenly, Ucky was starving. And he dropped the axe on the ground and ran back as fast as he could to his castle. And there he saw the banquet table full of food and drink. And he ate and he ate and he ate and he drank and he drank and he drank. But no matter how much he ate, no matter how much he drank, he was still starving and thirsty. And he kept on wanting more and more. And in a frenzy, he lashed out at the servants and the cooks, and he emptied the larders and the pantries and the kitchens of all the food. And still, it was not enough. And he abused everybody and became insane and obsessed with satiating his appetites. Everyone was terrified of this madman. Then his wife and his children and his servants all left him on his own. And he began rummaging around his castle, looking for something to eat, but all the food was gone. Then he started hunting mice and rats and crickets and spiders and flies. And when the house became empty of all living creatures, He went out into the land where he grubbed along the earth for snails and slugs and earthworms and a few fungi he could lay his hands on, then digging out of muddy puddles, slobbering around like the slimy creature he become, never satisfied, condemned to spend eternity, always searching for more. And he's like that to this very day. That terrible, acquisitive, avaricious, materialistic energy is still around here. I'm sure you can spot it. And if you can't see it, you can sense it. Anyway, Danu, to protect the Fia Neva, created a fey Fia, a Kyo Driachta, a magical veil of invisibility to protect that Fia Neva from the Uckis of this world. Since then, the veil has been lifted from time to time for those who are pure of heart and pure of mind, so that they can receive the Imas, or the sweet healing water of the Lin Vanaha, or receive the Aiksha as they meditate. So the next time you're walking through a forest, I invite you to open your heart and open your eyes. Maybe that Fia will, that veil might lift for you. Shine Mashkelsa.
Wow. For somebody who's been identified as an electric talk machine, I'm speechless. And my goodness, it's just like not that I doubted it for a moment before we ever started recording this. Oh my goodness. These stories are so contemporary, aren't they?
Well, absolutely. I hadn't realized when I'd heard recent news that, oh my God, there was somebody who was building a banquet hall or whatever, a ballroom. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. And that theme, that archetype of that avariciousness and acquisitiveness and that sense of never having enough. And when you look at people in the world who are very wealthy, they'll never have enough.
And there have been people that we would look at them. Okay, so the person comes to mind of all people is Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey, the actor, comedian, what have you. And you don't know if these necessarily are true statements that some of these folks make, but you have to appreciate the statement anyway. And that is that something to the effect of he wishes that some people would be granted their wish, as it were, to have all the money that they could possibly want. And then they'll have a stark awakening saying, it isn't enough. And you don't think about the burdens that go along with that, and that you lose contact with the things that truly matter. And as proverbial as it may sound, they are the things that money can't buy. I read today, and I never thought about it, but there seems to be almost, I'm not sure if it's American greeting cards or who, but we had Mother's Day because of them. And there's ideas. And
Yeah,
did you,
yeah.
and apparently the month of November is the gratitude month. I can't imagine where that comes from.
Wow. Okay.
And why does it have to be a month? Why cannot not be a regular activity? Being grateful for what we have rather than being ungrateful for that which we think we should have and we don't.
It's
And
really, so you can be ungrateful for 11 months as long as you do it for the month of November. Yeah,
yeah,
it makes
that's
sense. Even, Mother's Day, it's like, well, isn't every day a Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, for example? It's like, well, if you have a loved one, you should be loving every day. Every day should be Valentine's Day. And I'm not talking about flowers and cards. I'm talking about actual expressing and sharing, giving and receiving love. You know.
so where did you begin your passion for storytelling? Can you think back where
Um,
it began?
well, my passion for the stories started in primary school. So, I was educated by Roman Catholic nuns. And I learned about druids when I was in primary school. I learned all those myths and legends, and they all had, a fascination and a magic for me. And storytelling started through joke telling. So someone would tell me a joke, and often you get the bare bones of a joke. So I would want if it was one I liked, I'll retell it. But then I found myself embellishing it. And I remember being at a gathering, people said, "Oh my God, you should be on the television." I'm going, these are only jokes. They have no value. Their jokes are, they're too frivolous.
Hmm.
And I remember I'd finished my Bardic review, and I'd been a long time on the Bardic grade. And I was at an international gathering of shamans, and I just spontaneously started telling stories. But while I was on my Bardic grade, I was not a bard. My husband was. He could spit out poetry to beat the band. I was not. I could sing, but that didn't really count. And I was
Hmm.
in an art group, but I'm not an artist. So I did not have any Bardic skills. I wanted to be doing my ovate stuff, and that's what I was doing. And as soon as I handed in the review, it just started.
Huh.
I'd found a very nice book. I think it was Ethna Massey's book on Enchanted Ireland. And I just liked her storytelling style. And she mentions the place where the landscape where the story occurs.
Hmm.
I thought, oh, I like these. And then I just started telling.
I know that I got you people can't see the visual, but I got hooked on a series probably a year ago or close to it. But the author was Octavia Randolph, and she lives in a country. I thought it was fictitious until you got into the books and you find out it really does exist. It's a country called Gotland, and
Okay.
it's under the supervision of Sweden.
Mhm.
Um, but she has a knack of storytelling that is phenomenal in that she even has like a disclaimer in the beginning of her book saying something to the effect of all of the language that is being used in this book would be typical of the day in which it was supposed to represent. And I
Wow.
found that really interesting the way she does it. But you do really feel like you are there with them and you can
Brilliant.
smell the trees, you can feel
Yeah,
the
yeah.
earth, and it's amazing. I mean, Gotland is a sea surrounded by the sea. It is an island, and you can smell the surf. Yeah, and they talk about the salt air and things. To me, that's when storytelling really becomes magical. And I could see it when you were just sharing that short story, the 10-minute story, that you can feel the land around you, and you could see the magnificence of the trees that are there. And for a moment, you brought to mind something, Emer, that was really, it was a special opportunity, I think, that was given me. Here I am, I'm a white guy, and we used to do powwows during that time that I was with Native Americans. And we were doing a powwow up in Vermont. And I remember there are a number of us around, there's probably 10, 15, 20, whatever vendors there. And I saw these young children, and kids are kids, and they had their sticks out there, and they were going out and they were beating on the tree limbs and knocking the leaves off the tree limbs. And I just walked over there. I didn't yell at them or anything. I just walked over to them, and it was like you were saying, Emer, it's almost like Spirit was pulling me and says, you need to go and share something with them so that they can understand at their level what it's all about. And I went over there and I began to talk with them, and I said, you know, uh, you're hurting those trees. And they go, oh, yeah. And I said, well, I want you to think about something. If when you hit that tree, or if you hit that leaf, do you notice there's a little bit of liquid that comes out of that? And I said, if you crush that leaf, you can see a little bit of liquid coming out of that. And now I've got their attention. You can tell them they've kind of let their sticks down, and I
Mm.
I start to share. I said, that liquid is the tree's blood. And I just silent. I just went silent for a moment, and I had their attention. I said, every time you whack that tree, it's like you took up that stick and you hit each other to the point where you bled. And think about the pain that you're creating when you're doing that. And I said, now think about the pain that you might be creating in that tree that meant you no harm other than the fact that it's a beautiful summer's day and it's out there having all of its leaves around you to create shadows and to create a dream space and to create shelter from the sunlight just for you. And your repayment is to knock the leaves out of them and to hurt them. And they just looked at me, and I said, You really ought to think about that. And you know what they did, Emer? They dropped their sticks and walked away. They didn't hit another tree that
Uh,
weekend. And it was, but you take a little, that didn't take it probably took as long for me to tell the story as it really did occur. It didn't take that long, but it was enough of a statement to them to say, give them pause and let them think. And I think that's the power of a story is to give people pause and allow them to think. What do you, what's been your
yeah,
experience?
absolutely. I mean, you could have yelled at them and they said, "Oh, who's that guy?" But actually tapping into their compassion,
Hmm.
because kids like trees. I mean, they may think they're invincible, but just saying that, that's their blood,
Hmm.
and bringing it to the personal. I think, wow, like putting yourself in the roots, not the shoes of a tree. That kind of thing. I think it's really, really powerful.
Yeah. If someone has the desire to really get into storytelling because they feel like they have a story to tell and stories to tell, what would be a good place to start, do you think?
Well, first start telling them to themselves so that they can actually fine tune them, hone them. And there are storytelling circles online. Google them.
Hmm.
And this is one of the thing about COVID. It brought a lot of storytellers all from around the world together on one platform. And there are still people doing it online every week. I don't do it anymore because I'm too busy, but I did, and it was just brilliant. So to start telling yourself, finding a story that suits you, and telling it to yourself as you walk, and then tell it to one or two other people, and then see what their reaction is, and then start doing it. But reading also,
Hmm.
reading stories and listening to other tellers, really, really important. It's not that you will become like those other tellers, but you get to see like a broad menu of different storytelling um, styles. Otherwise, you can get locked into, if you've a favorite storyteller and then you're trying your best to emulate that person and you can't do it, then that can set you into a place of, a sense of failure, when actually no two tellers tell alike, and they're
Hmm.
not meant to.
Hmm. Uh, it's like if you want to write, if you want to be a writer, read books. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, but it does if you're a writer. And
Absolutely.
that's my thing. I love to write, and do this. This is fun to me. It's
Mhm.
passionate to me, just to find out, what makes a make what the title of the podcast, Toward a Better Life. What do you do to create a better life for yourself? And that's something that I'll be asking you in a couple of minutes, just because. But you surround yourself with the things that bring you joy. You surround yourself with the things that bring you happiness. And if storytelling is that, if you enjoy hearing a story, and if you really get captivated by a storyteller, who's to say you don't have a story to tell somewhere?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's different kind. Are you familiar with the moth movement in the US?
Mm.
The
Yes, I
moth
am. Yeah.
storytelling. Okay. So I have friends, they have a storytelling company in Galway, and it's called Moth and Butterfly. And they had lived in the US, and came across the moth. And so when they have their sessions, a number of people will be telling moth stories. I don't tell moth stories. I tell and then what their moth and butterfly is, moth is the personal stories, the butterfly is the improv, because they do a lot of improvisation, and the body is the kind of stories I tell. But I'm always intrigued at how skillfully people tell their own story. And it'll be a twist. And it's not just like I went up the road and I went down the road and I opened the door and I closed the door, that kind of boring stuff, but that they can embellish it, and that they can create a scene that you can actually see it and they're
Mm.
in it. And then there can be a little bit of poetic license about it.
Just
Never
a
let the truth get in the way of a good story.
just a wee bit.
Yeah. So some people have that style. They like to tell moth stories, and then others don't. So it's about finding what kind of stories do you want to tell.
Hmm.
Start with one, fine tune it so you have a confidence and you say, I can tell this story. Because if you don't practice enough at it and then you don't do a good job, then that's very deflating. But I mean, when I started, I would walk the roads and I would tell the story over and over again. And sometimes I record myself telling it and I play it back and forth. And then I do it in my sleep as well. If I'm the night before a storytelling session, I will go to bed and I'll be telling them in my sleep.
Mm.
I don't know how helpful that is, but I think I'm locking something into my head, you know.
Do you find that that a particular story might shift depending on the audience?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it
Um,
doesn't have to be, oh, I forgot that line. That's a
not
mistake.
at
No, it's
all.
not.
And,
It
no, and there's always, you know, so if there's been an occasion and certain things have happened and you're telling a story, you can weave in to this group who know what's happened yesterday, and you can weave that in or tomorrow, and something, you know, a current affairs issue because it's happening. Like I mentioned, you know, the
yeah.
spaceships, because it's like when I started telling that story, I didn't have that because it hadn't happened. So it's about getting people to recognize them. And sometimes I'll say they elected a really bad leader who was abusing his people. And, you know, democracy then is just as it is now, where people who are meant to be intelligent voting tyrants into power or something like that. And then people go, oh, yes, I know that one. But, and then it depends on where I am. It's like, ah, yes, weave that in because that's topical for
Hmm.
community. And yeah,
And
because storytelling is organic. It's not rigid. It's not about this is the script and I have to stick to it. Absolutely, because otherwise it becomes really stilted.
hmm. And it's working with the identity of those that are listening and those that are
Absolutely.
participating and being able to identify with them.
And I think it's really, really important as a teller to know who your audience is and to have a sense, you know, to have that deep respect for your audience, because if there are no listeners, there are no tellers.
Hmm.
So um, it's about being able to engage with the audience and pace your stories according to the audience. And that's an art, that's not a science. I can't
Hmm.
tell you how to do it. It's like, and interesting when it, so we gather as storytellers. There's an organization called Mad for Road. There's a group of us, and we go twice a year, either we alternate Ireland and the UK, and one of us hosts it. And so we're having a gig, and then we'll say, "Have you any idea what you're telling?" And this is, you know, half an hour before the show. No, I'm toying between two. So what are you telling? Okay, then I might go, and then you know they've gone into a plan, and the teller before them told a story, and they go, "Oh no, I wasn't go. I was going to tell this story, but now that you told this story, I'm now going to do this." And it's that, and then weaving in maybe the other stories that have been told and weave them into your story. Those kind of things, because that's the organic piece of storytelling. This is how it's evolved. They're evolving, they're living, they're alive, they're
Hmm.
beating, their hearts are beating. And that's what makes it so much more interesting. And telling a story is very different to reading a story.
Hmm.
You
Okay.
know, with a book and you're reading a bedtime story is
Sure.
not the same as, you know, looking to your audience. I mean, I can do it in Zoom, but looking to your audience and speaking to them and engaging. And sometimes people do, you know, call and response stuff, or catch someone's eye and go, you, and speak to them. And there's a whole dance, there's a whole, and it's improvised, it's not choreographed. There's no choreography there, but there is a dance that happens with the room. And it needs, as a teller, you need to be really respectful of your audience. And hopefully they'll be respectful of you too. But you know that it's very much a two-way process.
You're going to prompt me to go up to Jonesville, Johnson. They got to, have you been there?
No, I haven't. I haven't. No.
Yeah, yeah. They got quite the building there, and they just, I think, yeah, it passed by again because I noticed them a year ago the first time,
Oh,
but
okay.
they have this big festival in October, and we just missed it again. But they would have several days of storytelling, and I know that for an example, we went to and I think it's interesting that storytelling can be woven into so many different parts of our lives if we just stop for a moment
Yeah.
and listen and observe. But Vicky and I went to a gathering to watch for a type of firefly. for example,
Okay.
and you had to make reservations ahead of time. They're called the blue ghost fireflies, and they're very rare. They're particularly notable here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina and into Tennessee. And there are, Eimear, there are literally thousands of these things, and it's so unique at night when you go. They actually give you torches with red vinyl over them so that you can see stuff for yourself without stumbling, but at the same time, you're not interrupting the
Very
fireflies. So
And
there's
you
a
mentioned blue in the name. Is there light blue or is it the normal yellow white light?
they actually look blue. They
Oh,
when they go, they're blue in their appearance, and they're ghosting because it's this they're there and then they're not. You know, that it's
oh,
that's the whole story behind it. And what's really cool when you're doing this is when you're going out, and I'll get back to my point of the story in a minute. But you go out and you start to watch these, and you have the blue ghost, and they kind of pulsate a little bit because you have the males and the females, and they're basically communicating with each other through the glow, and that's the whole thing. It's a mating ritual. And then they have some other ones that are called the synchronous fireflies, and it is like a magnificent natural symphony when you're there, a symphony without sound, because you
wow.
just stand there and you watch with your mouth agape, because the blue ghost, they actually hover like maybe less than a foot above the ground. They're very much pointed to that. They're attracted just staying as close to the ground as possible. Whereas the synchronous ones, they hover from that level up to maybe 10 to
Wow.
15 feet above the ground. And so what you have is you'll have the blue ghost pulsing a little bit, and then all of a sudden a bunch, several hundred will glow all at the same time. And these are the synchronous fireflies, and they'll pulsate too. So you have the little guys down at the bottom flickering around and enjoying each other's company. And then every now and again, the spotlights come on and said, "Okay, guys, what are you up to? What are you up to? What are you up to?" And they stop and they go back. And it's a magnificent thing. So where am
Wow.
I going with this?
It was a good tangent. Very nice.
But there was a gentleman at the beginning of it that told a story, and he told it both audibly as in just speech, but he also did it with music, and he sang a song that he wrote about the legend of the Blue Ghost Firefly, and it was so cool.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. And you just have fun with this sort of thing. So I shared all that to say that, just look for opportunities, just like you're saying. They're out there. If you want to hear a story, yeah, they're all around us. And take up the time to enjoy that type of story. And I'll say it, instead of turning on the nightly news at 6:30.
Oh, fantastic.
Those aren't stories. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no, they're not. No.
No, matter of fact, I'm not sorry. But those are certainly not the stories that can really change lives, that can really move us toward the beauty of life itself.
Yeah.
And do you find, I'm going to guess that you probably do, that you've done storytelling, I mean, out in nature, outside, and so forth when you do ceremony? And do you find a difference between that type of storytelling and the storytelling that might be in an auditorium?
When when I can see the faces,
Hmm.
so whether it's indoor or outdoor doesn't matter because if it's comfortable. Uh, but on a stage where you can't see anybody beyond the second row, that's harder.
Hmm.
I love a more intimate because I like to be able to uh, work with the audience. Is you catch someone's eye and you know they're moved and you use that, and it's like I'm giving something and they're giving something back, and that kind of that reciprocity that you get more of that when you can see your audience. Now, having said that, I told this story actually. It was an environmental conference, and I was asked to. There was a lot of paper presentations, and in the afternoon, I was asked if I would do a kind of a ritual. So I thought, all right, I'm going to take them out into the woods, and we found this place. It's in a park in Dublin, where there was a storyteller's seat with benches, and then I discovered, oh, there are yew trees around us, young yew trees, and I told that story, and then I
Hmm.
got them. chanting. And that was magical. And then we went back inside into the building. And then I told a story at a conference this weekend. I was doing the opening ceremony and closing ceremony for um, a conference on with doctors looking at the benefits of psychedelics.
Mm.
And I told them the story of Giancach, who's the founder of medicine in Ireland, and his hubris. And I wove that into an academic conference because I was invited.
Storyteller at heart.
Because I could see them. It was daylight. It wasn't, these headlights. So I prefer, I suppose, the nicest is to tell them round a fire where you can see your audience. So I'm doing a performance tomorrow night now. It won't be around a fire. I'll be in front of it. It won't be lit, but I can see my audience.
Yeah.
And that's so much nicer and so much easier.
There is something magical about sitting in a fire, sitting in a circle around a fire. It's just,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
A lot of fond memories from that alone.
Yeah.
And just like I was saying earlier, poof, and the time has just slipped.
I know.
Gracious. So I am going to ask the question. I think we probably know the answer somewhat, but you might surprise us. So, Eimear, what do you do to create a better life for yourself?
Well, I have two wonderful children. I have loved and I have been loved, which really still feeds me. I'm a widow now. Wonderful friends, my stories, my druidry, really important. And I live in a very old house, which is a huge challenge, but that's not what I'm talking about. I live in the country. I'm looking out of my garden now. When I moved here 28 years ago, it was just a field. I have no more room to plant trees. My garden overlooks a magical river. That really feeds me. Music, the arts, storytelling, really, really important. And friends.
Mm-hmm.
I do eat well, so that also helps too. Yeah, so I think I'm very, very blessed, and I do practice gratitude. I think I remember when I was bereaved, my husband died 10 years ago. I could hold happiness and grief together, one in each hand, and I thought, I'm not unhappy, but I am devastated. But I can still be happy. Recognizing the grief I had was the price I paid for the love I had, and it was worth it. And those kind of things. And I've been really blessed, and a wonderful Druid community. Like, I'm not from here where I live. And once I joined the order, that was 2003, and we started a community of 3 people. And now, I don't know, we had 40 people yesterday for our Samhain ceremony, who aren't all Druids, but they're part of our community. So it's just beautiful. It's just lovely to be able to have that. And I'm really blessed to live where I live. Ireland's a great place to live. We have a wonderful climate, and yet Irish people whinge constantly about the weather. They all want to go to Spain. They all want sunshine. I just loved, the seasonal changes. I'm just looking out at, it's getting colder now, and this is the time to light a fire, and the magic of having a fire and looking at flames. Really, really important.
You can see this. You can see what they used to refer to as the fire spirits. A gentleman gave me a piece of stone. It was actually a tube, and it was created by lightning, and they call it a firekeeper's scope. And
blow it to keep your fire aflame.
No,
but so it's hollow.
No, you could. It's hollow, and what you do is it is actually formed when lightning strikes the ground, and it creates cylindrical stones, if I can use that, because it fuses the sand together. And they said that what it's for is for a firekeeper to hold it up to his eye or her eye and watch the fire and watch the fire spirits. And I have to tell you, Eimear, that's a fascinating process in and of itself, because I've done that, and you can see dancing spirits in the fires. It's magical.
That sounds wonderful. I have scope envy. I've never come across those, or never heard of those scopes. Those fire scopes. The stones. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. So you have a website, and in case people would like to get in touch with you, and they really should, just for what it's worth, but it looks like it's is it kilkennydruidry.com? Is that what I'm
That's
seeing?
correct. And you can find me on Instagram at Eimear Burke Druid.
Okay.
I think it's Eimear Burke dot Druid or underscore Druid.
You never know anymore.
And it's a bit like, do you know your own telephone number? No, but I know everybody else's type of thing.
There you
Yeah,
go. I don't call myself, so I
that's
don't
right.
know.
And then there's the orders website, which is druidry.org.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Can we take a moment just to share about OBOD for anyone that's really interested? Because I talk about it all the time, but we have a wonderful opportunity just I'm not going to restrict you to the number of words or time, but it's up to you.
The Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. Actually, we have about 30,000 members worldwide. So the mothership is in the UK, and I'm the chosen chief, but I'm here in Ireland. And it is a wonderful, diverse group of druids who we have. It's a very diverse membership. I like to describe it as a salad, not a puree. So when you look at a salad, you have different leaves, different textures, colors, depending what part of the world those leaves grow, nuts, seeds, meat, fish, cheese, or not. Different kinds of dressings, where if it's a puree, everyone is assimilated and it's all the one. So we have we have pagans who are druids, we have agnostics, we have animists, we have polytheists, monotheists, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, and many, many more. All are welcome because we have no dogma, we have no rules, we have no commandments, there's no sin. If you're looking for certainty, don't come near us. It's a place that allows you to follow your own spiritual path.
Yes.
So people say to me, how can you be a druid and a Christian? It's like, that's up to you. None of us decides how anyone can become a druid. We have trainings by distance. There are 3 levels. It's a non-hierarchical organization. A druid is not better than a bard. And you start with bard, ovate, and druid if you want to go as far as druid, but that's the pathway you follow. It's about exploring your creativity through your engagement with your landscape and the seasons. It's just exploring ancestors, time, divination, philosophy. When I say we don't have any dogma, we don't have a big book. You live your life following your own internal moral compass. You look at your actions through an ethical lens. You can't say the devil made you do it, or God made you do it, or so-and-so made you do it. You are responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And what's very important is that of service. The role of the druid is to be of service, and however that expresses itself. So creativity is important. You find your creative expression. That's up to you. And community is very, very important, and being of service.
That sums it up. Thank you
And so
so
many
much.
people, it's a bit of a cliche, but people say, I found my home. And
I've said that. Mm-hmm.
So I meet physically, it's easy for me to do that. And then we've many members who can't for, either logistical reasons or it's not safe or whatever it is. But we have an online community, and we have a druid hearth that, with over 100 different circles and people can meet online.
Is that how many we've got? I haven't looked because I keep looking. I see, there's a new one. Oh, there's a new one.
It's about 100.
Yeah. And it's everyone listening, I've been with OBOD now for, it's over a year. You're going on a year and a half. And I have to agree with you, Eimear, completely. And I've mentioned it before that when I finally came into that space, I come home because there's a long litany of bits of information for me and what made me who I am. I don't have any regrets, but it's nice that I've come home.
Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah. So, Eimear, this has been delightful. Thank you ever so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us on Toward a Better Life. And you are appreciated on so many levels. Thank you ever so much.
Kind, Kevin. And thank you. It was just lovely to have this chat with you. So thank you so much.
Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks to Eimear Burke for sharing the magic, beauty, encouragement, and truths that can be found in storytelling. You may connect and contact Eimear through her website, kilkennydruidry.com. There are links in the show notes, as always, and a very special thanks to you, dear listener, for tuning into the program. Remember, if you're seeking insights and advice on how to create your own better life, and you'd like to delve in and dive in to self-care, self-development, experience hypnotherapy, distant shamanic work, Reiki, drop me a line, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com for your free discovery call. What happens in that discovery call? Well, we discuss your goals, set some plans for achieving them, and move forward with your journey toward a better life. You can also visit my website, towardaBetterLife.com, for past episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your own spiritual journey, and upcoming events. Please do subscribe and follow Toward a Better Life through your favorite podcast platform, and leave a review, please, on Apple, Spotify, Overcast, whatever your podcast platform might be. This helps to spread the word, and, it helps to create, as you know, a better life. Always remember, if you'd like to share your story, your music, your prose, or if you just want to be a guest, that's pretty cool too. Please write me, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com. Till next week, enjoy your journey toward a better life.